Hello again, Michael Ware with Warrior Wednesday. We're bringing that to you with IFC here live, and we have a special guest today, Amanda Hardin with Lipstick Tactical. You heard that right, lipsticktactical.com. So I'd like for you to tell us what you're about, so we get an idea, and we'll jump right into it. Amanda, go.
Yeah, so Lipstick Tactical is my online social presence. You'll find me as Lipstick Tactical everywhere. Avenir Consulting, as you can see, is the name of my company. And what I do is I consider myself a lifestyle brand. I work every day to empower mostly women, go figure, women are very attracted to my brand, to come in and learn how to live life without limitations, whether that is situational awareness. I am an avid motorcycle rider, so I teach a lot of motorcycle de-escalation classes. I've got a podcast, Becoming a Modern Day Gray Woman, which is a play on the gray man concept where, you can be prepared. You can be the first responder. You can know how to grow some food for your family. And we don't have to be so reliant on outside sources for our safety and our needs. So really a lifestyle brand of preparedness, awareness, and independence.
Fantastic. Very cool. Yeah. So, in full disclosure, I came across you zipping down through Instagram. Spent a lot of time in your state out in Colorado, beautiful place. Enjoy going there a lot. And I was going down through there, and I saw, I think it might have been an advertisement for an upcoming class you had. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll check this out. One thing led to another. And then I mentioned earlier, there were some people that I was watching that had led me towards you. And I thought, I'll check this out. So I visited my wife and I showed her a few of these things. And she's like, well, are you going to talk about it? Or are you going to invite her on the podcast so that you could talk about it with everybody? So I said, okay, let's do that. So, and you checked a lot of boxes for the things that a lot of our people are interested in. Okay, there's a pretty big uptick in the females who are interested in shooting and being part of the community. You're showing strong ideas about independence, travel. I mean, you talked earlier or touched on briefly about, motorcycling, journeying, if you will. And you're taking all these things out and training others. So, and then, if we went down the preparedness rabbit hole, we could spend hours. So what do we want to talk about first?
Well, something I'm really excited about is a huge upcoming motorcycle ride. So that's where just my entire brain is right this second, because it's really culminating everything I teach, I learn, I preach, and I practice into one thing. So I'm having to make sure, do I have a med kit properly packed when I'm out on the road? And I'm going to be traveling all over the country. So are there states that don't honor my concealed carry permit? Well, what am I going to do? Am I going to carry? For this trip, particularly, this is the first year that I have been collaborating with brands to do this. So I will be carrying to the letter of the law to represent these brands properly. So I will actually have to either open carry or not carry on some of these states. So I am also a certified non-lethal self-defense instructor. So I'll be able to demonstrate, what am I going to do? The situational awareness that I teach is going to come into play. So really, it's like I'm putting all my own teaching to the test for my own adventure that's coming up for this ride.
Fantastic. So just out of curiosity, where all are you going? Do you know your route yet?
I do. This is the most planned trip ever. Usually I just kind of throw caution into the wind and I'm like, I'll be back in a month. So I'll be on the road for almost a month. And I'm going to do a quick run up to Deadwood, South Dakota next week to test my camping gear. There is a women's camp out. It's called Babes Ride Out. And I've not moto camped in a couple of years. So I want to just have a quick few days. If I'm like, oh my gosh, something's ripped or something's not working right, or I forgot a piece, I'll come home for 3 days. Then I'll head out for the long ride. And I'm going to go up through Wyoming into Montana, and I'll start at the Beartooth Rally. I'm going to go to that rally, and then I'm going to head west and make my way all the way over to the coast of Oregon, spend a few days there. I'm going to meet up with a couple folks I know out there. We're going to shoot guns. We're going to ride motorcycles. They have a sport bike. I'll hop on a sport bike for a few days. I'll get off my Harley, my bagger for a few days. Then I will head all the way back over to Sturgis And I will end my ride at the rally, and I'm going to be teaching some classes at the Sturgis rally, and I'm going to be giving away thousands and thousands of dollars in prizes, including guns every day.
Wow. That
Yeah.
doesn't sound too bad. Where are you teaching when you get into the Sturgis area?
So there is a store called Sturgis Guns that is in Sturgis, and they are going to have a gun rally, is what they're calling it. So they have this huge parking lot right at the interstate that is on the exit that all the bikes get off to go into downtown Sturgis, and they've got all the big name brand gun folks are going to be there, and they're going to be set up with tents. They're going to be doing raffles, giveaways. So it's just going to be a really cool event. I'm going to go for 3 days and teach a motorcycle de-escalation class. And with each class, we're going to give away huge prize packs. I'm really excited. The owners of Sturgis Guns, they're cool individuals.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a question. I know what a motorcycle is. And I know what de-escalation is.
Yeah.
So what's motorcycle de-escalation? I'm curious.
It's something that every biker needs to know, including myself, that we do not always practice. So, what's the best fight you're in? It's the fight you're not in, right? The best fight ever is like, don't get in one, period. We tend to get a little hot-headed as bikers, especially when someone cuts us off, someone does something dangerous. So it's how do we as bikers, what can we do on our bikes to first and foremost just avoid most of that? So it's really talking about being alert as you're riding, staying ahead or staying behind, things like that. And then if a car does get aggressive towards you, how do you handle it to hopefully de-escalate that altogether? And then the class goes all the way to the point that, if someone does engage with you, if you do actually have to go into self-defense mode, what do you do? I'd love to say it's super cool and we shoot guns off of bikes, but there's nowhere it's legal. I mean, there's just nowhere you could justify moving to self-defense on a moving bike. I've not been able to rationalize it. Everyone I've talked to, it's like, because that would just be super cool to teach that. But it's really, if it comes down to it and you had to defend yourself on a bike, what measures do you take then? So it's mostly about the de-escalation part. Like, let's not get there to begin with.
Well, though, I would think that those concepts and techniques, transfer over to everything. I'm part of a church security team, and I've often heard our chairperson, John McLaughlin, who trains people all the time. He often says there's got to be something between a harsh word and a gun. And so it seems like de-escalation comes into these things more times than we may think. I mean, a lot of people who are teaching firearms courses are talking about knowing the law, understanding the code, and the ramifications and accountability for all of the acts that you may make. And then, of course, there's obviously the weapon handling itself and everything that accompany it. But at the end of the day, you really, 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 as you said, don't want to be in the position where you ever use a firearm. So there's a ton of things that happen upstream and downstream that we should be cognizant of. It sounds like it's a pretty interesting concept. What did you do to prepare yourself and become trained so that you could offer de-escalation to others? I'm curious about that.
Sure. To be honest with you, a lot of it is life lessons. I'm certified through the USCCA. They've got a number of different courses and certifications. And I'm noticing that people are so interested in this de-escalation and this situational awareness that I have started vetting some programs to get like an official, the check mark by my name, a certain specific certification. A lot of them I found are very geared towards law enforcement, which is phenomenal for law enforcement. But I am a civilian. I'm a mother. I'm kind of thinking like, what are my check marks? I'm an RN. I'm a single mom. I'm a woman that travels solo. I want to teach within the parameters of what I'm actually, qualified to do. Yeah. So I've taken a few different classes with different people, but a lot of it is just books I've read. It's things I've put together I've traveled internationally a ton by myself. I've studied other people's literature that they've put out. And I've just culminated it into kind of like, I'm teaching you street smarts more than anything. And it's amazing how much people don't have that. There's quite a few, you see people all the time that just innately tend to have that, or they've learned it throughout their lives. But it's every time I teach it to a group of women, it's like, wow, some of the things they'll say, it's just like, whoa, you could just, we talk about super simple things like, how do you read the gas station when you pull into the gas station? Like, have you ever even like consciously looked around when you pulled in and said, oh, wow, there's a ton of people milling around over there, and they're watching all the cars as they pull in. Like, and you'd be surprised how many people were like, oh, I never thought to do that. So I would love to say something super complicated that I'm teaching, but I'm really just teaching people how to walk through life and like observe and make a decision about what you're observing.
Well, you'd like to think that the kinds of situational awareness that you're pointing to, our instincts would lead us to. But
Yeah.
it seems like if we have those instincts, and I have the firm impression, or the firm opinion rather, that most people probably do have them. It seems like we managed to squash them or ignore them, or especially in cultures like ours, where we're saying, don't think critically, certainly don't say anything about it because that's considered rude, or you might offend somebody, and everything associated. Don't look at those folks there. You don't want to make them upset. All those things are kind of, I don't know if it's 100% true. It's at least tacit. They're asking you to dull your instinct. You have this thing that says, I don't know about this. And then everybody's like, oh, don't do that. And it's almost like we get patterned, whether it's at school or well-intentioned parenting or whatever else. And the next thing you know, these instincts that we had are dulled or ignored, and it becomes commonplace. And that bothers the heck out of me, because I got to tell you, Amanda, it's the wrong direction for us to go as a culture.
Absolutely. Well, we're not allowed to trust ourselves anymore. Like, I mean, think about it. Like, we're bombarded with messages saying that there's no way you could be right. You can't trust yourself. I mean, we wouldn't buy half the products we bought if we trusted ourselves, because some, manufacturer and marketing agency is convincing me that I'm wrong about the way I look, the way I act, the way I feel, the way I do. I mean, if you really break it down, we are told all the time not to trust ourselves. I mean, look at people trying to have relationships with one another. No one's brave enough to talk to the other person, or then they don't honor their word and follow through. And that definitely translates over to self-defense. Like, if I can't even trust myself to carry out a task in my own life or my own word with one other human being, how could I look at this situation and trust that I'm right about it? And in school, we don't teach critical thinking. Like, no, we do. We are absolutely conditioned to not trust ourselves. So it's like you said, even if I did see the situation, I'd be like, oh, I must be wrong. And then I think women, I don't care what kind of family you're raised in, even if they didn't teach you to like be quiet and polite, which I am Southern, I am Middle Eastern, and I was raised Catholic. To say I was raised to be seen and not heard, sit down, shut up, I'm the woman. I mean, I was raised to just exist and breathe air. I mean, truly, it's a shame. And I was not to have an opinion, not to push back, nothing. And I would have let, and I did for a long time in my life, I would let people just entirely step all over me, because I was so conditioned to definitely not trust myself, and certainly never speak up, and to always keep the peace. Like, don't ever say anything. You don't want to make anyone else uncomfortable. So I was very much conditioned that way, but I'm convinced that women is just a little bit on every woman's DNA, just slightly sprinkled in there, to just be the peacekeeper. And I don't want to make you feel awkward because I walked over to the other side of the street. I don't want to make you think that I didn't trust you. And it's like, one thing I always teach in my classes, that if someone calls you out on something, like say I did walk across the street, someone was just giving me the heebie-jeebies or walking towards me, if they say something to me, that's kind of my sign they actually had bad intention. Because any well-intending human being, they're aware of what the world is like today. They can clearly see, oh, it was a woman walking by herself, I'm some huge dude. Like, sure, like, I totally wasn't going to do anything, but I probably would have crossed the street too if I saw me walking towards myself. So it's like, when you kind of break it down like that to your students, you can see the light bulbs coming on. Like, oh yeah, like, I guess they wouldn't call me out unless they actually did have nefarious intent. So it almost gives them permission to trust themselves and start taking action.
They should. I mean, it's a false premise to say that anytime that you and I decide that we're going to think critically about something, that we're against whatever it is that we're surveying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I live near a small community of about 1,000 people, and so a couple miles it takes to get into town, and if I say anything, not always, but it's often perceived if I make any critical comment or ask any critical questions, oh, Michael doesn't like this or Michael doesn't like that. Well, no, that does not mean that. That means I'm asking you how this money's going to be spent at the school, or what are we doing over here with this public park? That's all I'm asking. I just want to know. That doesn't mean that I'm anti-park, but that's kind of the direction we go. So we're immediately vilified for asking questions or pondering, and that's not inappropriate. And yes, there are palatable ways you and I can ask these questions that are less snarky and less whatever it is you want to call it, aggressive, of course. But to do those things, you have to teach people to do that. I'm glad that you are, and I'm glad it's a component because we've abandoned this. And so I think that that's pretty interesting. I'm glad you brought it up. So if most of the people who are listening to this are, well, probably most of them are Iowans, not all. I know that we have some people that follow from all over the place, but I think that the Iowans that listen to this are under the false impression that everything's just fine in the state. The Second Amendment is well protected, and IFC works very hard to do that. We're in partner with, NRA all the time, NSSF. We work with GOA, other people from time to time to get things done, and we've enjoyed a lot of success. But they don't understand, A, we have a long ways to go with some very heavy lifts, and B, I don't think they understand just how bad it is for some of our neighbors. After paying close attention to Colorado and what's happening there and what's not, Amanda, you've got some really, really serious problems. And so if you're willing to talk about a few of those, I'd like to have people understand the contrast between an imaginary line in the dirt between your state and somebody next door. So, because I'd like for these people to understand that. And I'd also like them to understand what it is they need to do to help their brothers and sisters out there, because a lot of Iowans may think, well, what difference does it make to me? I can't do anything about it. And oh, by the way, I don't live in Colorado. Well, half the people I know travel there for vacation routinely. So you're going there. And if you think that you're carrying your standard firearm that you are in Iowa across Nebraska, Kansas, however it is you migrate there, is fine all the way through there, that may be true. It is not true in Colorado today. So walk us through that, can you?
Oh, yes, I have so much to talk about right now. First and foremost, protect your gun rights in Iowa. That's where we messed up in Colorado. Everyone's like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. I don't need to be involved with the political system. And I get, as soon as you use the word politics, about 50 people are just going to glaze over and be like, I'm done. But the best thing you can do in Iowa right now is try not to make your gun rights a right and left, a Republican Democrat thing. Your gun rights, your Second Amendment rights are nonpartisan. It is a constitutional right you have, and they need to be spoken about that. And I would encourage people in Iowa, and then I'll move over to what you do in Colorado. But in Iowa, if you have people that are spouting rhetoric and they're creating divisiveness, I would squash that, because we have some groups here in Colorado that are protecting our gun rights that I'm not so certain they're protecting our gun rights, because they've made a tremendous amount of money off of being very, very, very polarizing. And all that has done is made it a R&D thing. It is a right and left. No one is even paying attention to the fact it is just a constitutional right we have. So it's become this fight. And I think that should have been squashed years ago. That was one of the first ways we started messing up. And then even before that, just people weren't paying attention. They're like, well, our rights are here, so we don't need to do anything. If you're in Iowa, call your Republican, call your Democrats, and let them know that, like, if you work in the gun industry, just introduce yourself. I'm not sure what y'all's legislative session is. We go from January till May. And the best thing a Coloradan could have done is, while the session is off and they could actually pay attention, call them and just introduce yourself. Hey, I own a firearm retail store in your district, and I just want to introduce myself and let you know that I employ 15 people. I've sent both of my children to college. Humanize what you're doing now and do it to all the politicians in your state. Do not let it become a controversial across the aisle. I can't handle any of those terms. So please, please, please protect your rights in Iowa, because now ours are gone in Colorado. The Second Amendment is trashed in Colorado. You have got to take an 8-hour class now to get your concealed carry permit. It has to be done by a vetted instructor. The laws were written so vaguely that the sheriff's departments they're interpreting them to however they want. There's already lawsuits going against all the different sheriff's departments on, well, that's not what the law says. They're like, we don't even know what the law says. It's so vaguely written. So we can kind of do what we want. So it's becoming very hard to get your concealed carry permit here. It's becoming very cost prohibitive. It's definitely becoming a privilege to be able to legally conceal carry a firearm in the state of Colorado. We've definitely got magazine capacity bans. And then this past year, they passed it was an all-out just gun ban. And I am very, very involved politically. Politics are a game of chess. Get a little savvy on how legislation works in Iowa, because it's going to be different than what happens in Colorado. But this bill that came through, it's Senate Bill 3 is the big nasty one. It passed this year. It was not willy-nilly. It was not, it dropped the first day of session and everyone was like, oh my God. We knew it was going to drop. The senators, the legislators, the House and the Senate, they have to have their first round of bills in by December 1st, I believe it is. That bill was already in. We knew it was there. But then, no one wants to pay attention. So when it dropped the first day of session, everyone freaked out. They knew they were going to introduce a terrible bill that when everyone got angry about it and everyone showed up to testify, they amended it. They amended it and said, well, now you can take a class and you can get a card from your sheriff's department after you take this class. Sounds like it's similar to a FOID card, not exactly of what's going on in Chicago. Right. But you get a 5-year card that will give you permission to buy guns with detachable magazines, like basically a gun. Anything that's a semi-automatic firearm, you now have to have permission from Colorado to buy it after you take like a 12-hour class. So that's how they got around. They're like, it's not a ban. We're just ensuring everyone has proper training. And who can argue with like proper training? It's for the safety of everyone to stop mass shootings. And it's like, wait, what? Wait, how did you just connect these dots? But, and look at how bills are written in your state. Like in the state of Colorado, a legislator will literally come up with an idea. So they're like, oh, I want to draft up a bill about students and mental health. They can literally just say that and go to a bill drafter with that idea. And the bill drafter will write the bill. Like it's so willy-nilly. You have got to get involved in your legislative process. It absolutely stinks, but you have to. You have to.
Well, it may scare some people to learn this, but Iowa functions almost identically to what you just described. Our legislative session is January to roughly April, and it usually spills over into a little bit of May. And we have a thing in the basement of the under the Golden Dome, under the state capitol, called LSA. I think it's the acronym is like Legislative Services or something like that, agency, whatever. And you go to a bill drafter with an idea, and they put it in Iowa Code legalese and toss it out there. And that's fine. I don't have a fundamental problem with these people authoring something that's congruent with code so that everything that it touches isn't a mess. We do need that. I understand that. But the idea that you could go up with this concept and say, hey, let's throw something at the wall and see what sticks can happen from time to time. And sometimes these ideas are refined. Sometimes they're not. And if you'll look at some of Iowa code, I'm sure it's no different in Colorado at all. There are archaic things that have been tossed against the wall and stuck, unfortunately, and it's almost impossible to dislodge them. I mean, they get there and they become concrete. And you're like, this is as dumb as it is stupid. How did this even become a law? Well, I don't know. But if you go back and look, you'll find out. And then you start shaking your head. And what happens then? You walk off because it's there, and it's almost impossible to take a crowbar and pry that stuff out. So you're so right. I would like to believe that people want to be more educated on how ideas become codified and get turned into law, and everything in between. But it does require what you mentioned earlier, is people's engagement. If you're saying that you believe that Coloradoans decided to kind of sit back and put their feet up on the coffee table, if that's actually what happened, that's bad. I mean, when you get to the point when that's actually what's going on, it takes a long time to right the course of that ship, even if you begin immediately.
Yeah. You can't just, everybody's like, oh, we'll just sue them. It's like, those can last for 10, 15, 20 years. And then it's been very frustrating because even this session with these horrific bills out there, gun shop owners didn't shut down. And last session, they passed a new FFL law. So on top of the federal ATF laws that they have to comply with, there's now an entire set. It's not called the Colorado ATF, but that's what I feel like it should be called. There's an entire set of rules and regulations that have to be abided by for FFLs, and another license they have to buy. The FFL guys and girls did not go down and engage. They just were just kind of shrugging their shoulders, or they would know me and they would go, oh, thanks for what you're doing. And it's like, this isn't how this works. I can't single-handedly, or 12 of us can't save the state. We have to show up in mass. If you've never been to the state capitol, you've got to go and see the special interest groups that are down there. Everything makes sense if you will go down for 1 or 2 days during a legislative session. And you're like, oh, there's all the people in the red shirts, and there's all the people in the yellow shirts. And they have full-time people. I know it's hard to do that, but if you look at how many gun owners are in your state, and if everyone will commit to one day, hey, I'll burn 1 day of vacation to go down and talk to a legislator, to go sit in on the reading of a bill, to go sit on a committee, something, to follow a bill. Oh my gosh, it's so difficult to follow a bill. It's going to go to committee this day and then that day. If we will divide up the burden of it, we can be so much more effective. We have to.
You're right about that. IFC does a pretty good job. We have plenty of room for improvement, but we do a pretty good job of helping illuminate the legislative patterns and the small idiosyncrasies, and helping people understand, here's what's happening on this date and under what circumstance. We've been fortunate to have enough volunteer help with especially people like Billy and Richard. They'll go to the Capitol building and they'll even live stream committee meetings so that people have an idea of what they need to sink their teeth into and how. That's all helpful. And then one time a year, we do a Second Amendment Day at the Capitol, which is organized. We have people come in, and I usually raise my hand or drive the shuttle bus so we can get people back and forth the parking lot, because it's always cold and terrible weather. It's almost always a blizzard every time we try it, but every time we do it. I think we've done it 8 or maybe 9 years in a row now, 8 anyway. Okay. And that's all very helpful. But at the end of the day, it boils down to engagement. If you organize these days and you do a few of these things, and we don't have people that are able to lock in and become part of it, it doesn't work. So, I mean, we're no different than any other organization. We need membership. We need funding. We need donations, that kind of stuff. In fact, I think it was today. Is today? Yeah. I think today, or maybe it was yesterday, we rolled out our very first firearm raffle. So if you go to iowafc.org and you can hit one of the tabs and you can buy a raffle ticket, and we're going to start doing that so that people, have an opportunity to win, and a little jolt in funding, all those things help. But you've got to operate like that, and you've got to help people understand what's going on, Amanda, or they don't know. Because ordinarily they think everything's fine, probably. And, if there's something wrong, obviously you got to tell us. Well, we can do that. And that's part of the mission statement. It's part of the work, but we need your help back. So when you give us these warnings, don't go down this road. I really hope people are paying attention, because I don't think they understand just how terrible it is for people living in Colorado and people driving through Colorado. It's gotten pretty ugly pretty quick.
People are out of business. Like people are moving out of the state of Colorado left
Yep.
and right. Like no joke. The firearm stores are closing. I personally am not going to be teaching concealed carry classes anymore because I've decided that it's just I don't personally own a range and I don't work for a range. So for me to go rent out space to teach an 8-hour class now and then to go get vetted by my sheriff's departments, it's not something I'm willing to go through the hassle of. So we have less instructors now. It's just very, very frustrating. It really is a shame to watch people's like I'm losing a whole friend group because one of the retail stores that I really enjoy shopping at, they let me teach classes out of it. He's been there for like 25 years, and it's kind of like the neighborhood shop where people just drop in. Like you can drop in on a Friday afternoon and you like know everyone's name and everyone pops in and visits in the store.
Yeah.
He's moving. He's shutting down. So it's not even just a livelihood is going away. His employees are long-term employees. They're all losing their jobs. Like a family is being broken up. And like it's awful.
You mean they're not changing locations? You mean he's leaving the state?
Oh, he's done. He's done with the state. He's leaving the state of Colorado. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I spent a lot of time in southern Colorado running around, Custer County, Fremont County, Royal Gorge around there, draw a circle around there 60 or maybe 80 miles. And it's usually in that proximity. And I used to see lots and lots of fresh Texas license plates because people were leaving Texas to come to Colorado. Now I'm not. They're leaving. They've showed up for a year or two and said, this isn't what I bargained for. I thought I left some place that was turning blue and I ended up someplace very blue and I don't like it. And I'm like, well, it's not about blue. It's not about red. I'm just telling you that some of these things are obviously not what you want. I don't blame you. And they're leaving and they're heading other directions. I mean, I never thought that I'd see that. Colorado has been a landing place for a lot of people for a lot of years. And now there's a purge associated with how they're running the state and the local government. I can remember driving down through, zipping down through, 25 between Denver and Colorado Springs?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I can remember, well, it's kind of a crazy ride no matter when you go, it seems like. So it was white knuckle for me. You get down through there and you start pulling off and you go to do some of the sites and attractions and you wouldn't notice anything that you would think was out of order. Now, fast forward 15 years, there are tent cities everywhere. It's not the same as it used to be. There's a lot of cultural changes that are going on and have taken place. And I don't think it's for the better. It certainly doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. I will tell you that.
No, I live about 3/4 of a mile from downtown. I'm in a house. And honestly, I was driving back to my house last night and it was just like, I was like, it's just gross where I live. Like it doesn't feel healthy. It doesn't feel clean. It doesn't feel safe. I don't feel good where I live anymore. Like I drive home and I'm like, I have traveled to third world countries and seen this same scene. Like, or actually sometimes they're better, but it's people literally like there's a couple social media accounts that highlight that stuff in Denver. It's real. It's all over the place. They don't have to like go look real hard. It's my daughter is in boot camp right now for the Marine Corps. And I got a letter from her the other day and she's joking in the letter. And she says, I miss us going and getting boba and you having to dodge homeless drug addicts in the street. It's like, they literally are just falling off the curb. They're sleeping in my driveway. They're shooting up drugs in my driveway. They're pooping on the wall of the house. Like, it's disgusting. It's so gross and it's awful. Denver pays you $1,000 a month to be homeless. It's like I feel like we are abusive enablers in a relationship where we should be loving people and helping them get clean and helping them get educations and get off drugs and get into housing and teach them how to manage their money. No, we're just enablers. It's like living with a drug addict and rather than helping them get clean, buying the drugs for them or just giving them a free place to live. So every cent they get, they can go buy the drugs. It's it's awful. I've named the people that live around me. I have no idea who they are, but I've got the regulars and I have names. Like there's Walker. There's a guy named Walker because I don't know where he goes. He just walks around the neighborhood all day and all night.
Well, if the Second Amendment has evaporated there and the things that you're describing are routine in your neighborhood,
sure.
Are you planning on staying? Are you going to seek, livelihood and living elsewhere?
I hate to say it, but I fully intend to leave Colorado. I am very actively putting money back for a significant down payment. I want land. And it's not just because of the loss of our Second Amendment rights. It's because I'm from the Southeast. I'm from Alabama. I moved out here 9 years ago. It's the whole temperament of the state. The state is angry. People are angry here. You get on the roads and drive now, and it's like I don't know if people are taking their anger out behind the wheel. It's weird how bad public policy infects everything like it's cancer. The whole state is it's not the same. I own a small business. I'm regulated to death. I am feed to death. They just gave me a smaller trash can 2 years ago, like half the size of the trash can. And they're like, if you make more trash than this, you have to start paying more for your trash service. It's like, what? Like, it's just, everything's just out of control. There's nothing here that feels good anymore unless I go out to the mountains. And then I'm like, oh, there it is. No, it's so many people have fled the state that I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I wish I could say that I'm wrong, but I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I'm heading back to the South.
Okay, so let's say, for instance, you land in the Southeast United States.
Yeah.
Are you going to spend your time on two wheels, or are you going to start training again? I mean, what aspirations do you have regarding the Second Amendment? I mean, is it where you want to? Are you going to go someplace simply where you can practice it, or are you going to teach it?
I want to build a retreat. So right now I'm looking for land, about 40 acres. I used to garden all the time. I had a greenhouse. I really want to get back to that just personally, but I want to build a place that people can come and stay. I do a tremendous amount of educating with mental health clinicians. And I also work with government agencies talking about the intersection of firearm ownership and mental health. And I would love to have an outdoor range, a training facility where people come and book retreats that want to learn literally about the Second Amendment, how to protect the Second Amendment, and how to truly provide good care for gun owners. Mental health clinicians are not taught about gun ownership or how to talk about it. And statistically, about 40% of everybody that they see either lives with someone that owns a firearm or they are a firearm owner. When you go to the doctor, they always ask now on your history, do you have a gun? The schools in the state of Colorado have a questionnaire that goes out to the children. If you are listening and you are in the state of Colorado, your child or grandchild is being asked if there are guns in their home and how quickly can they access them. Those two questions are literally on there. And that data is being collected. So I am working very diligently to train organizations that are collecting this information on what do you do with it. Because the general theme in the state of Colorado is, we've got red flag laws. We start red flagging everyone. And it's like, no, that's not what we do. So it's been really cool. I got to admit, the work I'm doing around mental health and firearm ownership has been very well received. I'm working with some organizations that you would not think would be friendly towards me, but it's because I don't do the divisive rhetoric. I'm not going to scream and yell about my rights being taken away because I'm like, well, took a long time to get here. Let's have some civil conversations and talk about, should we just have them back? Yes, absolutely. No question. No one's ever convinced me, though, to side with them on their thought on something by belittling me or yelling at me or threatening me. And it's like, okay, we messed up. We didn't protect our gun rights. Let me educate you and let me help you educate children on firearms and firearm ownership. It's going to take a minute. So I'm going to keep doing that work until I leave. Then I'm going to have a retreat. I'm definitely going to be on two wheels. I'm sponsored to ride. So yes, I would love to just spend a lot of time on the road. It's kind of time to take me out to pasture. In a good way. In a good way.
I understand. It's funny that you talk about the intersection between the Second Amendment and clinicians, if you will, or anybody in the medical profession, because after, gosh, I don't know how long it was. I'm old now. So 25 or 28 years, whatever, with the same doctor.
Yeah.
And she's moving on, and she's not going to do a medical practice anymore. And so I looked around. I'm like, oh, golly, I got to go find a new doc. I've been with this one forever, and she's been fantastic. So now what do I do? So I started looking around and reading reviews and whatever else. And I thought, well, I'll make an appointment. I'll go find one. And I had set out some criteria before I went. So I knew, for me personally, as a Christian, I wanted to know if the doctor was a person of faith, and if so, what faith, because I wanted to have a clear understanding of how their moral compass was wired. Now, I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form. I mean, don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not saying that suitable doctors only are Christians. I did not say that. I'm saying that's what I prefer. So I wanted to ask that question. And so that question was adequately handled. And so I moved on to the second one. I'm like, is there going to be any problem associated with Second Amendment use and enthusiasm? And he's like, I don't know what you're saying. And I said, am I going to see a bunch of questions about whether I own a firearm or whether they're in my house or blah, 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 whatever else? I said, because if I am, I said, you're welcome to ask them, but I don't want to be here and I'm not going to give you any money. So if those are contentious issues for you or whoever you work for and with, I just need to know that so that I can not waste our time. And so he passed on both of those two prerequisites, and it's our relationships in its infancy. We'll see how it goes. But I wanted to know those things up front. And I think, Amanda, when we go out and we ask professionals that are going to tell us what we ought to do with things, here's how you should behave, or here's the decisions you should make. I think that I want to know those things. Are you going to take the things that I hold most dear in life and automatically chuck them aside and trample on them? I want to know that stuff. And so I think when you go out, you get a CPA or a doctor or a lawyer or whatever else, I think you should ask those kinds of questions. And I think if you're serious about it, I think the Second Amendment ought to be included, because I spoke about this concept with a guest last week, and I said the Second Amendment and how you reflect on it is so telling of what's inside somebody. Because, Amanda, if I was a politician in Colorado that had enthusiastically backed SB3, what I would be saying to you unequivocally is, it's not about whether I trust you or not. It's probably about whether I trust myself, because I'm taking something from you, Amanda. Amanda Hardin of lipsticktactical.com. I'm taking something from you that I don't want for myself. I'm not taking $100 out of your purse. I'm taking something from you I simply don't want you to have. So what does that say about me? What's wrong with my beanie that I can't handle you having access to something or the use of something? That's clearly not an Amanda problem. That's not a problem for Lipstick Tactical. It's a problem for me, and I'm going to prove it by forcing this down your throat and taking something from you. So when you think about the Second Amendment and what it means, I think it's a pretty darn good litmus test of whether the person you're dealing with is somewhat ethical or entirely ethical, or at least close. I think we should ask those questions all the time.
Yeah. Well, if they're willing to strip your Second Amendment right, then what's going to keep them from coming for any other ones? It's like, it's not, and you have to really focus on that when people are like, well, I don't care, I don't own guns. It's like, yes, but do you like these other rights you have? Because they're clearly demonstrating to us that they will infringe on this one. So what happens if they start picking a bone with another one? It's that. And then we need to stop being closet gun owners. I cringe when people tell me that. They're like, oh, I own guns. I'm real careful about who I tell or whatever. We can't be secretive about being firearm owners. I'm just like you. Anyone I do business with, if you were going to do business with my company, Lipstick Tactical, I just had my website redone. I said, are you firearm friendly? Are you pro Second Amendment? Because I am not going to give you a drop of my money if you aren't. And plus, you're just not going to do a good job. I will not work with anyone that is not pro Second Amendment. And I spoke with someone that lives in Colorado that works for a firearms organization, a national firearms organization, and he got a new physician. And he told his physician what he does for a living. And the doctor told him, said, there is no firearm ownership that is safe or good firearm ownership. And he was like, well, you're not going to be my doctor. But we have to tell people, and we have to let them know we're responsible gun owners, because the information they get is zero. A doctor gets no training on firearm ownership. An RN gets no training on it. A mental health clinician gets no training on it. So every bit of information they get is something that is most likely very anti-firearm. And then it's going to be, anything insane they heard off of the news. So, we have to stand up and say, you know what? I own a firearm. And we have to call our politicians, the R's and the D's, and say, you know what? I'm a single mom. I was stalked. I've had horrible things happen to me, and I own a firearm, and now I'm raising my children without fear. I feel safe in my house at night when I hear a thing go bump in the night, that I can protect me and my family. And I'm in your district, and, I love how safe it is. We have to start telling people these things. We have to.
I'm going to apologize for this ahead of time.
Yeah.
But I've got to ask, because I haven't been there.
Yeah.
Have you been to Congresswoman Boebert's little restaurant?
No, it is actually closed now. Nope. It is not in the Denver metro, but it is closed. Yeah. It was all over the news a whole lot.
And that was in Rifle, Colorado?
Yeah, which is pretty far west from where I am.
Okay. And what was it? Shooters or something? I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I think it was called Shooters. Yeah. And everyone open carried there. Uh-huh.
Okay. But had you ever been there when it was open?
No, I had not.
Okay. All right. I didn't know if it was terrible. I didn't know if it was a complete gimmick or not. But I guess the sun has set there anyways. Now, she changed districts. She's somewhere down south now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. She's changed districts and was really impressed she won. And then, it's so important to get out and vote. There's a lot of apathy among voters. And one of our seats was won by literally 3 votes. Literally 3 votes. So it's like, please don't ever tell me your vote doesn't matter. I get election integrity. We need to have some conversations around that. But think about it. If everyone turns out and votes, and everyone votes down some terrible amendment or votes this specific person in, then take an exit poll. Take the exit poll. So when the exit poll comes out and everybody's like, well, this person should have won by a landslide, but the election result came back this, then you actually have something to go off of. And again, I get it. It stinks. Why are we even having to do this? I don't know. I don't have an answer for that, but here's where we are, here's where we are. And I'll tell you, when I move back to the South, I will run for a public office. I will not move back to the South and just be like, oh, I'm safe. I'm back where we have gun rights and freedom and we're not overregulated. I will absolutely run for a public position immediately, because you can't just run forever. I got to get on in a public position why it's still good. And I have to encourage other people to do it, because if you're chasing your rights and your freedoms to get them back, it's going to be way harder. Just suck it up and run for office now.
I don't disagree. I wish that more people did it. It's very hard. It's a complex thing, but I think that we, from what I can tell in my time working in and around legislators and lots of elected officials, yes, it's complex. Yes, it's very hard. But we can make it more complex if we're not careful. And I understand that sometimes bills contain many components. Let's say that there's 10 components and 7 of them are very good and 3 of them are not. Well, that's not perfection. And sometimes you got to hold your nose and 3 of the components aren't that great and you got to suffer those to get the other 7. So those things are always problems. But I have a respect for people who are willing to go do those things because they are hard and they are necessary. And I wish that more people were willing to do it and to try and understand it too, because being in any leadership position is darn tough. It truly is. Everybody out there who's a parent right now knows what I'm talking about, because you're in a leadership position and parenting is tough. It's very, very hard. So you should have some empathy for elected officials. And I think that you're called in this culture with the founding of this country to, at a minimum, understand what's going on around you. That is incumbent on you. It's something that you should be responsible for and accountable to, and probably you should move beyond that if you can. So if nothing else, another thing that we haven't touched on, but is very big when it comes to elected officials, is shaping them through the primary process. I see far too few people who even get, even moved out of their comfort zone about primaries. I'm like, well, you're not happy about the general election choices and you're sitting around squawking about them. What did you do to shape these two candidates, or the possibility of these two candidates in the primaries? Were you involved with that at all? Did you help with electioneering? Well, no. Well, then quit boobing about saying that I'm choosing between the lesser of two evils when you didn't do anything to color this map. I mean, that's just dumb. We have to be involved with those things.
You have to be. And you said something earlier about how you've got some people that will go and live stream from the Capitol. They're not allowing that anymore in Colorado. So really? It's not just your Second Amendment rights they're doing away with. Yeah. I mean, they're like, oh, let's make it harder to get the information out to people, which I have no idea how it's legal. I truly don't. But yeah, if they see you live streaming from a committee hearing, they will make you stop. You have to go and get permission now. The Cora Open Records, they're passing all kinds of laws to make it very, very expensive to get access. And these are our elected public servants. They are trying to have meetings behind closed doors. So we're not just fighting Second Amendment rights here. Our government is trying to make themselves inaccessible to the people in the state of Colorado. And that is scary. And people still are not even stepping up about that. And it's like, man, they start having meetings behind closed doors. You can't start getting the records. Then we're doomed. We're doomed.
Oh, man, I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
First of all, I mean, that makes me angry to hear it, but then the emotion changes to genuine dread and concern. You're so right. If people, I mean, if you're being disruptive, that's one thing. You shouldn't be doing that. I mean, this is a place of respect and decorum. I do understand that.
Sure.
But if you're saying that you can't simply hold up your streaming device and send it out there over the airwaves, live or recorded for critical thought later, that's about as bad as it gets. I had no idea. That's ugly.
And they do live stream most of the committee hearings on a YouTube channel. But it was really interesting last legislative session. They would have technical difficulties on certain days when certain committees are being heard. And then it's supposed to live forever as a video, a recorded video. But oh my gosh, the videos for certain committee hearings aren't there anymore on the internet. So yeah, there's a lot of very, very, in my opinion, just flat out dishonest things happening. And then please don't ever let yourself get into a super minority in Iowa with your Second Amendment right. Because you can if we're similar, they can actually rewrite the rules of how they operate when, like, if the Democrats become a super majority, they can rewrite how they operate. And that's terrifying. That's terrifying.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and suspend these rules for now because we've got enough people to vote on it that says they can. So we don't have to give the democratic process any process. That's ugly too.
Yeah, it's no good what they're doing out here. It really is not. It's a disservice to the people they claim they're trying to serve.
Okay, so just so that we understand here, I want to segue into your trip a little bit, and then we'll wrap some things up.
Yeah.
Just for everybody's edification, if you go to iowafc.org and you check out that raffle I spoke about, we'd love to sell some raffle tickets. We'd like to see you win. We're going to keep doing that on a monthly basis, or I think that it's every month or something along those lines. So that's something I want people to consider. But another thing is we talked about what value and some of the things that IFC brings to the table in terms of membership. Well, if you'll also notice, we have trusted partners on IFC's page, and that's iowafc.org. And those trusted partners offer all kinds of discounts. And so basically, if you spend the money with us, and we're glad that you're willing for membership or whatever else, you can get enough codes for discounted things or tangible items or services or whatever else. It quickly offsets the cost of your membership. And there are people, I don't know if you're part of any organizations like this, Amanda, but there are people who get on some of our payment portals, whether it's our PAC or whether it's our standard corporation. Mm-hmm. They just get on and they say, okay, I spent $7 on a latte at Starbucks this morning. I'm willing to spend $10 a week or $20 a month or $10 a month or whatever it is as a recurring payment. And they make donations like that. So that helps. So check out those trusted partners. Help us where you can. But I wanted to have that to move into this trip that you've got, because there might be some people that want to follow along. So tell us how we're going to follow you on your journey as you make this month-long trek. I'm curious about that.
Yeah. So it's mostly just through Instagram and Facebook. I am still really getting to the social media, really, really digging into it. I've always traveled solo on my motorcycle, been doing it for years and years. And then I realized that there's a lot of people that want to, especially women. I get asked so often, weren't you scared? Weren't you scared? Weren't you scared? And I was like, wait, what? No, we just went and did it. So I really, truly want to show other people they can live life on their terms. So it's through Facebook and Instagram. Amanda Hardin personally, Lipstick Tactical is my Instagram page. I've got an Instagram, Facebook, Lipstick Tactical. But then I did start just a motorcycle page because the social media overlords, sometimes if there's firearm content, they'll just shut you down all of a sudden. So I do have a specific motorcycle page. It's called Gear Goddess 9, which is a little funny, but there was not a lot of handles left by the time I made a motorcycle page just recently. So if really kind of whatever content you want, but if you can find Amanda Hardin, if you can find Lipstick Tactical, I'm going to be showing my whole journey on there, and really excited. And then we'll get feedback from people. I'm going to be, like I said, giving away prizes the whole time. I'm going to try and start YouTubing on it a little bit more. It's a little challenging for me. I've actually hired someone to help me with that because I feel like I really want to serve two purposes. I want to be there in my ride. Obviously, when you're riding, it can be very dangerous. I'm riding a lot of miles. I'm riding solo. I need to be in my ride, not overly concerned about, am I running the contest correctly? Am I getting the next piece of content out properly? Am I satisfying my sponsorships? So I have hired someone to take me through this journey together, where I'll be grabbing the content, I'm forming all the partnerships, and then she's going to help make sure that I'm delivering properly, that it is a fun experience for everyone to follow along, to participate, to win the prizes, to learn about how do you conceal carry on a bike, how do you set it up on a bike? How do you carry it on your body? How do you access it? So that's going to be Instagram and Facebook. And maybe I'm about to do some YouTube stuff.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Very cool. Mm-hmm. So refresh my memory. You
Mm-hmm.
said that you're going to leave how soon, and when are you going to take off?
So I'm going to go up to Babes Ride Out in Deadwood, South Dakota from Colorado on July 10, 11, 12, 13.
Okay.
And I'm also going to go and check out the guns I'm going to be giving away because I'll be right next to Sturgis. Whip back down to Denver, change my gear out if I needed anything, last minute prep. And then 3 days later, July 17th, I'm headed out to Beartooth Rally, over to Oregon, back to Sturgis. I'll be leaving my bike in Sturgis for 3 days. I'm going to fly out to San Diego to watch my daughter graduate from Marine Corps boot camp. She graduates August 1st. So I'll spend 2 days with her, and then I'll fly back to Sturgis, teach my classes, and get back to Denver. So it'll be July 17th to August 8th. And then I'll be out at the GOA conference the very next day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy
You've got a lot packed in a short amount of time. I hope that you can get it all done. You might have to build in some time for a nap. I don't know.
I've got a great team. I would love to say that I'm just, I'm handling everything. But like I said, I believe that a good team makes you an even better person. And it's important for me to deliver good information, good content, I want people to truly find value and joy and what I do. So I'm willing to have just a phenomenal team. It's not just me. I can't take all the credit.
That's the way it works around here.
Yeah.
There are people that come on as guests and they throw accolades my way. And the fact of the matter is, while I may happen to be the Santa Claus looking face that some people may see on these videos, the truth of the matter is we have a ton of members and a ton of volunteers
Yes.
that put this together, that actually make it work. And they're the horsepower under the hood. And I'm very glad to volunteer among them. And some of these have become tremendous friendships, and so have I enjoyed them. I hope that you have those same experiences.
Yeah, definitely. It's cool. Yeah, it's cool. When you're really committed and passionate about what you're doing in life, the right people come.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Amanda Hardin with Lipstick Tactical, lipsticktactical.com.
Yep.
Follow her, pay attention, listen to her warnings about what could happen to your state. And let's hope and pray that Colorado can get it turned around. Some of these things do change for the better over time. I don't like the idea that something is abandoned or lost, especially in a time where I see the Second Amendment in many, many circles. The overwhelming majority is on an uptick and an uptrend. So let's take advantage of that before the pendulum swings back the other direction and make hay while the sun shines. What do you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Dig in now.
All right. Thank you again.
Yeah, it's great.
Until next time.
See ya.